right, welcome back, everyone. This is Ebony again, aka Fit Mom Diva of Simplicity Health Style, and today we have Miss Diamond with us. How are you, Diamond?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend with us. She is going to give us some nuggets that you guys can carry with you throughout your day and throughout your week. And for those of you that choose to stick around to the end, you will have an opportunity to earn a complimentary gift. So, Diamond, can you share with us just one motivational quote that really inspires you, something that encourages you and gets you going?
So my motivational quote is actually a scripture. It's Psalms 46:5. It's a little cliche, but it's the one that I feel like resonates with me the most. It's God is with her, she will not. God is within her, she will not fall. God will help her at the break of day. For me, when I first heard it, I didn't know how popular the scripture was, but I know that God has always been my best friend, and I've always seen my life as, if I don't have God, I feel like I can't do anything, and when I do have God, I feel like I don't have to ever worry about anything. And that's how my life has went. So that always like encourages me. I'll probably get a tattoo of it one day, but that's one thing that I know that would never change. So it definitely resonated with me.
Okay. And I think that for some people, they feel like, everything is, out to get them, or everybody's out to get them, or everything is coming at them all at once, and they can't focus on their purpose and their direction in life. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it does take stepping back and realizing that you do have God to rely and trust.
100.
Anytime that you're in a bind, or anytime that you're feeling like you're unworthy, or anytime that you're feeling like, oh my gosh, nobody wants to help me, well, why not look towards God and allow God to help you?
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to be open and receptive to that mindset. If you're not open and receptive to that mindset, well, then continue in your stress. Can you talk
Being
a little bit about how people can, or talk a little bit first, before we get to that, talk a little bit first about a challenge that you faced, and obstacles came, and you said to yourself, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, because we all know that we're all human beings and things are definitely going to happen. We're not going to go through life and it just be smooth sailing. We all already know that.
Mhm.
So talk about a time where you didn't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you said to yourself, I don't know how I'm going to make it through. But at the end of the day, you were able to persevere and be persistent, and you were able to see your goal or your dream to fruition.
I've spent the last 4 years at a predominantly white institution. And where I've come from, I'm from Prince George's County in Maryland. So it's very like I've always been used to being surrounded by people who look similar to me. And honestly, when I decided to, go to a PWI, I didn't think too much of it. But then I realized, like, when people say culture shock, that's as real as it gets. And when they say shock, that's legit, because you literally are submerged into I don't want to say culture, but an environment where you have to learn how to operate. You have to learn the right things to say. You have to learn what makes you comfortable, what makes the people around you comfortable. And I'm extremely outspoken. So I was often seen as, nobody wanted to talk to me because they were scared of what would come out of my mouth or things like that. And because I'm young, this is a place where I was learning to grow professionally. So I feel like I had two battles against me. I had one battle of trying to grow professionally, and that other battle of trying to uh, hold on to my value, or what I felt like my value was. Um, so during that time where, I did have people that were not interested in anything I had to say, and I had a lot to say. I would bring up issues and everybody would kind of like just ignore me or just put down anything that I had to say. So I learned to offer up solutions. I also learned to tell my story in a way that didn't seem like I was just saying it just to say it. I tried to, if I was talking to someone who didn't have the same experience that I did, I tried to share my story in a way that allowed them to understand that we're more alike than they understand. You know what I mean? Um, I started off as a resident assistant at school, and this is when I was having like my main problems. And I know I wanted to get my master's, but I didn't trust that they believed in me enough to want to hire me as a resident director so that I could get my master's. And as a resident director, you get your school paid for. So I was like, why wouldn't I do that? So I applied for the job, and I guess I've grown to a place where, you know, they look to me for diversity things. I've come to them constantly about feeling like we need to do something about this diversity that we claim that we're about, but we're not. Or I just feel like it's not being supported, and that's in this mission statement that we have, but nobody's talking about diversity. And if I have to be the person to talk about it, you know, then so be it. So once I got to that place, I think my main take back and what I try to like give to the younger students that I see and the younger RAs that I see is that if you're going to offer up issues, if you're going to bring up issues or you want to tackle them, find a way to present them with solutions so that the person that you're talking to wants to hear what you have to say as well.
Yeah. And I think that it's awesome that you were selected as a resident director when you first stepped in there and was like, oh my gosh, is this even a place for me?
Yeah.
To be in a leadership position, it shows that, you know, there was a lot of growth there. And maybe things weren't even as bad as you perceive them to be. It's just that it was a different type of environment for you. And I think that's the case sometimes. Sometimes, you know, we're put in situations that we're just not comfortable with and we're not used to. And we might think that it's like a whole other world and they don't really get you. But really, it's just that they're in a similar situation as you. They're just not used to seeing your face either around. You know, so they have to get comfortable with you first. It's the same way you have to get comfortable with them first. So I think that's an awesome achievement. And as we all know, it's not easy to move into any type of leadership role or achieve some of our dreams without support sometimes. So can you talk a little bit about maybe some support that you had during that process, if any? Maybe you didn't have any support. Maybe we could talk about that. But some support that you had during that process, and what are some ways that people can actually gain support when they're feeling like they're the oddball, or they're feeling like they have this vision or this goal in mind and nobody around them seems to quite understand it, or they're too busy, or whatever the case is, but they just perceive that they don't have the level of support that they need to help them grow to that next level? What are some ways that they can actually find that support?
For myself, somehow I've always managed to find a female mentor anywhere that I've gone. That's just how it's worked out. Um, you know, usually they're older than me. Usually they're similar to me in some way, shape, or form. But being able to have an adult, or at least somebody who's gone through what you've gone through, is the best support that I've been able to find. And someone who's actually willing to listen to what you have to say has helped me in everything that I've wanted to do, in every different environment that I've found myself in. I also know what it feels like to not feel like you have any support. Um, More so recently than when I was younger. My main solution to that is to write, because when I write, I feel like it's creating a sense of support. You know, you can't necessarily depend on humans all the time. You can't necessarily depend on someone to answer your phone call or answer your text or be there every single second that you need them to be there, because different people need different levels of support. So when I write, you know, me being able to spill my soul, me being able to spill my ideas, me being able to, sometimes I write down my dreams and things like that, or whatever goals that I have, I write it down. And I write it down as if I'm having a conversation with somebody. And when I first started doing it, it seemed a little weird. It may seem a little crazy, but when you're writing, it's literally getting stuff out. You know what I mean? And then you also have something to look back on. You know, um, normally when you need support from people, it's encouragement, or it's like a sense of them telling you like you can do whatever you set your mind to. When you write it down, it's kind of setting it in stone. So if you feel like you may not have that, you know, that is the best way that I can find to at least create a sense of support. And you never know, somebody could come up and pick up whatever you wrote down and see and say, you know, this is something that I actually want to stand behind, or this is something that I like the way that you was able to describe what you want to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
But definitely writing. I encourage anybody, no matter what age you are, no matter what demographic you are, writing has always been something that can help. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even think that you necessarily have to be an excellent writer. It's
Yeah.
just the fact of getting it out of your head and on paper that
Mhm.
allows you that relief. It doesn't even necessarily even have to be paragraphs. Sometimes just putting out a bunch of words, like a brain dump is what some people call it. A brain dump sometimes gives that extra relief. And then you're right, you could go back and look at some of those previous writings and sometimes recognize where you were then and where you are now.
Mhm.
And you don't realize, oh my gosh, these are things I used to say and I was able to achieve them. And then by doing that, by reflecting back, you're able to see the amount of inner strength that you actually have, that you were able to get through such and such situation. I think that people that take part in journaling, I think for a lot of them, they say that it allows them to be able to focus better on their dreams. And you had mentioned this just a second ago. Sometimes just getting it out of your head and on paper kind of solidifies that, and then you begin to make those implementation steps towards that goal, as opposed to just thinking about it all day long. Just something about getting it out of your head and on paper that
Mhm.
sometimes creates that extra momentum that some people need.
Mhm.
I know that for myself, when I go back and I look at some of my previous blog articles, I'm like, oh, wow, I said all that. And sometimes it's difficult to sit down and write sometimes. Sometimes I'm saying to myself, I don't feel like writing this blog article. What do I have to say today? Then once I started, before I know it, 20 minutes later, I've written 1,000 words. And so there's a lot in our heads that sometimes needs to come out. And I often will tell people that you don't even realize some of your subconscious thoughts either until you go back and you read some of your work.
Mhm.
So I love that you mentioned that. That's an excellent way. And you're right. Not everybody's always going to be available and accessible to you.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about self-care and the relationship between self-care and having the energy and the vitality to carry out our dreams, because we could go through all the steps of saying, oh, I'm going to have this plan A and plan B and plan C, and I'm going to trust God for these things to happen. But then, life gets busy. We have different things come up in our day that we weren't expecting. And we just sometimes don't really have a whole lot of energy to devote to our dreams. So, can you talk a little bit about maybe some self care strategies that you've used in the past or that you currently use, and why it's important? Why is it important for us to take care of ourselves so that we're more in line with who we are individually, and we're
Mhm.
more likely to actually live in our purpose?
Mhm. I spent, and actually this happened maybe a couple months ago. Um, normally when people say self care, you may go get your nails done, you may do a face mask, light some candles, and everything like that. But for myself, what I realized was I wasn't, when I would brush my teeth, for example, or wash my face, I would look in the mirror, but I wasn't really like looking at myself. You know what I mean? Um, I felt like I wasn't connected with myself. I didn't really sit down and have an actual conversation with myself. Or like when it may seem weird, but like looking myself in the eye and understanding like who I am, I felt like I wasn't doing that. And I don't know if it was me being too busy or me just neglecting myself. But checking in on yourself is, I feel like, the best form of self-care, because you can do your nails all day long, you can do your hair all day long, but it's about understanding who you are. And sometimes it takes time. People automatically assume, oh, I know everything about myself. I know my deepest fears. I know this and that. But, getting to know yourself is an actual thing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
understand that, how you operate in day to day, you may always view yourself how others view you. The best way to view yourself is how you view you. The best way to build up your self-esteem is to fully understand who you are and to understand your value. And to do that, you have to focus on yourself. You have to check in with yourself. One thing that I do is I have conversations with myself. And like I said, like all my tactics are like kind of weird, but this is what I actually do. I talk to myself as if I'm another person. because I'm the type of person, I'm very social and I like having different people around me. But when am I paying attention to myself? So
Right.
I'll have those times where it's just me, where there's no distractions. I may have my phone off. I may tell people, like I'm just having my personal time, and I'll sit and I'll talk to myself, and I'll literally debrief about like my day, or debrief about my week, and I'll figure out how did that affect me, or how did that affect my energy. I want to be in sync with my own energy first before I go out and try to interact with other people, and try to find myself in other people. That's not what I want to do. I want to be in sync with my own energy. And that's the best way that I can find self-care.
I love that you said that, and it's exactly true. We often don't spend enough time really getting to know ourselves, and so busy looking outside of ourselves at other people and finding,
Mm-hmm.
as you said, finding ourselves in other people, that we lose touch with who we are. I really like that activity with talking to yourself,
Yeah.
because sometimes I think that we actually know sometimes it's the things that we should do and the right path for ourselves, but we get so inundated with messages from everything around us and the things that other people would do in that situation, that we lose sight of, well, what is it that you need to do for yourself? So having those conversations with yourself, you know how you go to your friend and you say, I'm having this challenge or this issue. What do you think I should do?
Yeah.
Have that conversation with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
you know. So Ebonie, what do you think I should do in this situation? This is my challenge. What would you tell somebody else? And tell that to yourself. Ask yourself those same questions. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of times you may get further because you know yourself a lot of times a lot better than someone else is going to know you. They're only going to give you an answer based off of their own perception and the way that they live life. you know. So I love that. That's an excellent activity that I think that we can all partake in. I don't mean that we necessarily have to talk to ourselves all day, every day, but
Mm-hmm.
just find that quiet time in our day where we can ask ourselves questions, same kind of questions, the same type of advice that we would give to somebody else. We'll give that same advice to yourself. you know. I really appreciate your time. Anyone that's listening to this, if you feel like this could be of value to anyone that you know in your circle, please share this content out with them. I would strongly appreciate it. And for anyone that is struggling, I know we talked a little bit about self-awareness. We talked a little bit about living your core purpose and making sure that you have time for yourself and how to prioritize your time for yourself. If you're struggling in any of those areas, please reach out to me. Anyone that's listening, you can join my Nutrition for Busy Women Facebook group. We don't just talk about nutrition from a food consumption standpoint. We're also talking about it from a mind, body, and soul perspective. So if you need help in identifying your core purpose, your gifts, your true personality type, and how those can weave together so that you can better serve this world and feel fulfilled at doing so, reach out to me and I'll provide you with a free assessment. And any of you that want to share your experiences and your challenges, please reach out to me and you can share those on future episodes. There are so many ladies in this world that feel like they're all alone, and they also feel like they can't express what's going on because they feel like nobody would understand them, even if they gave their heart. And it's just not the case. A lot of people are very, very self-aware and can offer you tools that they've used that help them get through certain issues. So I would encourage you to share your experiences, share your challenges, and connect with us. All of my contact info is in the description box. All of Diamond's contact info is in the description box, and she's very welcome to people collaborating and connecting with her as well. So feel free to do so. Diamond, do you have any last words of encouragement that can help ladies that are listening? Anything that we didn't cover or anything that you just feel like could inspire someone into actions? Like someone that's feeling like, Diamond, I heard what you said and that's all well and fine, but I'm just stuck right here and I don't know where to turn from here. I feel like I even have the support that I need in my world, but really I just can't find that momentum to get going.
Mm-hmm. I say for me, it's value. It's always been, figuring out my value. I've always tried to find it in my career or in school or in other people. But what I have to realize and what I have to actually be disciplined in is sitting in my value and understanding my value and promoting my value and letting it be so set in stone for myself that nobody can touch it. You know, nobody can have any type of effect on it. Even people, even the evilest people or the evilest things that may come and try to change you or come and try to affect you in the worst ways, standing in your value and understanding your value and just making sure that there's nobody else that knows you better than you do. And as long as you understand yourself, you have your own back first, then you'll be fine. You'll be just fine. So.
Yes, I love that, sitting in your value. And we are all valuable. We're valuable in our own unique way. And being able to realize that, I think a lot of times will allow you to shine brighter because you realize that you are worthy and you're valuable. Too many times people have a bunch of negative things to say about us, toward us, and we take it at heart. And really it's just a projection of who they are. Is that who you are? It's a projection of who they are. So always remember that you are valuable, you are worthy, and you're a gift to this world. Thank you, Diamond. I appreciate you. And as I said, for anyone that wants to share your experiences, reach out to me and I would love to have you. In the meantime, no matter where you are in the world, always remember to live a life full of meaning and purpose. And we'll connect with you in our next episode. I'll talk to you guys soon.